On behalf of the Divinity School and on behalf of Yale University, welcome to this very special moment in the history of our school. We are here to unveil the portrait of Harold W. Attridge, whom we all know affectionately as Harry, my immediate predecessor and my very dear friend for many years. We want to especially recognize the presence of Jan, who is here with us this evening, and to all of you from the broader community who have come to this event. I think it's appropriate that since Harry was the 13th dean of Yale Divinity School, that he be the 13th portrait to be hung on these walls. Everyone whose portrait is here deserves to be here for different reasons, but I think I could say without fear of equivocation or of challenge that no one deserves to be on these walls more than Harry. He came to the school at a time when the school was in turmoil. He served while as a member of the faculty to help oversee the renovation of the Sterling Quad, to preserve this quad here and not let the Divinity School be swallowed up in one way or another. And then for 10 years served as dean of this school, the first Roman Catholic to serve in that capacity. He brought independent status to Yale Divinity School, tripled scholarship aid for students, formed alliances with other schools at Yale, and hired more than 12 outstanding senior faculty. I thought it was most appropriate that when I first stood in this room with him to be introduced as his successor, that Rick Levin said this about Harry: there seems to be only one way to properly say thank you, and that is to recognize Harry's remarkable leadership in scholarship and service with the highest accolade that the university can award. And so, Harry, you are now a Sterling professor. This week, Harry and Jan were honored with the highest accolade that the Berkeley Divinity School at Yale could bestow upon them, and that was to give them honorary degrees. And today we are here as a community to give the highest honor that we as Yale Divinity School can bestow on one of our own by unveiling the portrait that will grace these walls. We have a few people to help us celebrate this moment in a special way. One was Harry's partner while he served as dean of this school, who is now the dean of Vanderbilt Divinity School, who will speak in just a minute. She will be followed by the chair of the faculty and staff committee that selected the artist to paint the portrait, Professor Tom Troeger. And Tom will be followed by the father of the artist. The artist, unfortunately, was involved in a tragic automobile accident 8 weeks ago, and only yesterday was released to go home and is unable to be with us. He is recovering, but his father is with us today and will speak on behalf of the artist. And it's quite appropriate that he speak because when Harry decided to step down as dean, one of our alums, who is also a member of the advisory board, Jan Tanner, did two things to honor Harry. She gave the first and a very large contribution to establish the Harold and Jan Attridge Scholarship Fund. And if you were unable to participate in that, then you can still do so. A dean should not miss a chance. But secondly, she promoted the idea that we have a portrait of Harry and hang it here. Unfortunately, Jan struggled with cancer and last April lost her battle with cancer. But she did see the portrait that none of us have seen before her death and approved of it, as I'm sure that we will. So I hope that we can all savor this moment, and I turn the floor over now to the Dean of Vanderbilt Divinity School, a very dear friend of all of ours, Emilie Townes.
Enough, enough, enough. We are here for Harry today, and I can't think of a better reason to come back than something that honors someone I think so highly of as a person, as a scholar, as now a former administrator who is trying very hard to forget everything he ever knew about administration, and just an all-round good person. So I want to be brief, and so I wrote this down, and hopefully I can read this little screen it's on. And simply begin by saying, you guided us into being a better school. One thing you taught me was the importance of presence. When I first began, a bit nervous about taking on this kind of responsibility, you said to me several times, the most important thing to remember is just show up. So I took that to heart and watched how you did it. So it's a little bit more than just showing up. It's how you show up that makes a difference. From increasing financial aid from $1.6 million to $5.4 million, and the creation of 40 new endowed funds. You created or helped create 3 endowed faculty chairs. And now that I'm a dean, I know that that is no easy feat because I know how many millions that means per chair. You oversaw the formation of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture. You increased the autonomy for YDS within the broader university through designation as a self-support school responsible for its own budget. You expanded YDS's program in religion and ecology, highlighted by the strengthening of joint initiatives with the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. As Greg has mentioned, you guided the appointment of more than a dozen senior scholars to the regular YDS faculty. Again, a major feat. New partnerships with theological schools in Hong Kong and Singapore, and in general, just expanding YDS's student exchange program beyond the traditional US-Europe model to now moving out into the world. You cheerleaded and worked on diversity and inclusivity on this faculty, in this student body, on the staff. And on a personal note, you are a distinguished New Testament scholar with expertise in New Testament exegesis, the study of Hellenistic Judaism, and the history of the early church. For me as dean, it meant a lot that you maintained your commitment to teaching. Virtually every semester during your 10 years as dean, you continued to teach a course a semester. You, in your just showing up way, demanded that we respect one another as a faculty, as a student body, as a staff. And most of the time, we listened. You put YDS on the university, U.S., and world map with partnerships, great public speakers, and a magazine I must say that I am simply jealous of, Reflections. You encouraged travel opportunities for so many students and encouraged the faculty to get out and look up and out into the world as well. You asked me if this was going to be an Obi-Wan revenge or something like that, Revenge of Obi-Wan. For those of you who know, Harry participated in my installation at Vanderbilt, and quite frankly, I can't top what you did. It was probably the greatest gift of my professional life to be your partner in crime for 4 years. You helped me understand that administration can be and should be a ministry. And for that, I will be always grateful. And in sum, sir, you are a scholar and a gentleman. And that we thank you for.
If you were asked to serve on a committee whose sole purpose was to choose an artist to paint a portrait of someone who held the deep affection and respect of an entire community, what would be foremost in your mind? It might well be a snapshot in your memory of the person to be painted, some characteristic look or gesture that you treasured about the individual. You would want an artist who can capture something of the person's spirit, something of their essential character, a sense of what makes them so dear to the community. You would be grateful for the other members of the committee, grateful for their knowledge of the person to be painted, and grateful for their critical and discerning eye. As the chairperson of the committee to choose a portrait artist for Harry, I am indeed grateful to all those who participated in the selection process. I remember when Harry asked me to be the chair of the committee, I said, I don't have any visual art skills. And Harry, in his wonderful way, said, yes, but you love art. Which was true. But he gave me a marvelous committee, and I want to recognize them now. Dean Dale Peterson, Professor Sally Prummy, who is on sabbatical this semester, Professor Chloe Starr, a student, Kiku Langford, she received her MAR in 2012, and Grace Pauls, the one whom Harry always knew as the Amazing Grace. I want to trace briefly for you the selection process so that when we finally unveil the painting, you have a sense of what led to this wonderful moment. We started by gathering a list of potential artists and by asking Harry Attridge a series of simple questions. I actually sent this as an email to Harry, and he sent it back to me with his responses. I share his answers because they convey something of Harry's direct, good-humored manner, one of the things we have come to love in him. 5 questions. Do you want your portrait to be a classic academic one, you in academic regalia? No objection, but not necessary. Question number 2, do you want it to be more formal, you in a suit and tie, perhaps in your office? Answer, office is good, but there may be other options. Do you want it to be more informal? I think, for example, of Margaret Farley's portrait. Answer, probably more formal than less. Question 4, is there some way you see this in your mind's eye, including what objects, Greek New Testament, spreadsheet, sailboat, should be in the picture? Answer, no spreadsheet. With 3 exclamation points. Question 5. Finally, do you have in mind an artist whose work you like and whom you would trust to capture the spirit of you and your deanship? Answer, we'll chat about that. With those questions and answers in hand, we started visiting websites and worked our list down to about 11 artists and then 4 finalists. We shared the 4 finalists with Harry, and he visited their websites. At the end, he wrote us back naming the 2 artists whose work most impressed him. From these 2 artists, the committee finally settled on Peter Poskus III. We very much regret, as Dean Sterling has pointed out, that the artist is not able to come today because he's recovering from a serious automobile accident. However, we are very honored that his father, Peter Poskus Jr., is able to be present with us for the unveiling. Peter?
It's an honor to be here. I wish my son could be here as he wishes. The nature of one of his problems with the accident was a severe concussion, and toward the end of the day, he gets extremely tired. And that'll cure itself over time, but unfortunately not in time. Needless to say, I'm the very proud father, not only of Peter and his work, but my wife, Jan Tanner, who was mentioned also. She found the Divinity School just the most amazing place to study and to search for truth. She was a person who changed careers several times, and her most momentous change was going from the world of business to the world of ethics, and it was facilitated by Yale Divinity School. And just as an aside, when she was at school, there were various circumstances where we were like ships passing in the night. She was a full-time student. I was doing other things, and so we kind of knew what was going on. But after she passed, I became interested in reading about what she went through at the Div School, and she very nicely, in her library, set all the books from this school aside, which I'm poring over now. I started with the Divine Comedy first, simply because she was very much taken by Peter Hawkins, who taught it, and I had met him several times. And that started the ball rolling. And so now I'm reading about Augustine and Aquinas, and actually what Jan became was my Beatrice, I think, and that she's lighting the way for me. Anyway, I'm getting off the point. I am very proud of my son. He worked hard. He found Harry to be just a wonderful and generous subject, cooperative. He didn't ask him any questions, however. But he also wanted to include it in an environment. And of course, it was under Harry's watch that the Save the Quad became the big banner, of which my wife Jan was a part. And so anyway, we're all connected in various ways that we don't expect. But I thank you all. Thank you, Harry, and everyone, Dean Sterling. Thank you.
Well, this is quite something, isn't it? Who knew that being framed and hung could be such a pleasurable experience? This has been quite an extraordinary week with the honorary degree coming from Berkeley for Jan and me, and then this absolutely gorgeous picture. This is the first time I have seen it, by the way. I have seen a photo of it, but that photo doesn't do justice to the thing itself. And I'm so grateful to Peter III, Peter Poskus III, the wonderful artist who pulled this together. It made me look so good. You know, it's probably a bit of divine grace that we have Robin Myers giving the Beecher lectures this week, because remember the first lecture was all about ego. So I'm going to keep that close to my heart as I stand and admire this picture. But I do want to say a word of thanks to Jan Tanner, first of all, who had the idea to do this and to pushed us in the right direction, to the search committee that did such a wonderful job in identifying Peter Poskus as the artist here, to Peter. I'm sorry he can't be with us today. Do give him our fondest regards and best wishes for a speedy recovery. To Emilie for being with us today and having a word to say. She did refer to this wonderful opportunity that I had a little bit ago to celebrate her down in Vanderbilt, and that was a marvelous experience. And I was sure she was going to come back here and do something about Obi-Wan Kenobi, but you'll have to ask her what that's all about. In any case, thank you all for being here. Thanks to everyone who helped put this together. Thank you, Dean Sterling, and I look forward to being with you during the next half hour or so. Thank you.
Well deserved. We say thank you to Peter Jr. and to Peter III, to Tom for all of the members of the committee, to Emilie for gracing us with her presence and making the effort to be here. A special word of thanks to Connie Royster and John Lindner for helping to coordinate all of this and put this together. And as we see this portrait, I think, if I may say so, that there's a sense in which Jan's energy and vitality comes through in the light. Her inspiration of this. But Harry, we are immensely grateful, and I think no one more than I, for what you did for this school and the transformative effect of your deanship on Yale Divinity School. May God bless you and Jan with many years, and we look forward to having you as our colleague to continue to teach and to serve all of us and the broader community. May God bless you richly.